This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4 everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Did ProPublica plagiarize Wirepoints? ProPublica, state-run media, coming up with this expose on CPS. And before we get to their findings, which are redundant to the investigative work that Ted Dabrowski and the Wirepoints.org folks have done for years, frankly. This just in, breaking news from ProPublica. Here was Pedro Martinez, he of the split finger fastball, and former CPS superintendent.
Desperate housewife, I call him.
At City Club yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Not only are students graduating, they're better prepared than ever. Our metrics are at record levels. And by the way, our college persistence rate, so over 70%, 73% of our children persist in college.
Let me tell you something. It's not funny. It's just funny to listen decade after decade to this same bilge from politicians and politicians pretending to be educators like this guy. CPS is on the upswing. Not only are they not graduating, they're not even there. Dwindling enrollment has left 150 Chicago schools half empty, while 47 operate at less than one-third capacity. At one 28-student school, the cost is $93,000 per kid. That's how much we spend per year.
Oh, my gosh.
Because we have
what?
Because we have to have this Potemkin system where we keep up the buildings because you have to have all the support services and personnel, and everybody keeps their phony baloney jobs. Right. And they go through chapter and verse with basically telling in narrative form the stuff you would already know if you listened to this show because of Ted Dabrowski and the Wirepoints folks' research on the topic. They've all put it in handy-dandy tables for you to look at. 100 students in a school meant for 1,000 inside Chicago's refusal to deal with its nearly empty schools. Something that pro-school choice conservative reformers have been saying for a decade.
Yeah.
Always the last to know, the state-run media.
They're finally catching on, huh?
No, this is pretending to be real media.
Oh,
That's what this is. Pretending to be real media. So they have a report to point to. Yeah, we're on that.
Just go visit the schools. You'll see.
Ted, President of Wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks for joining us, Ted. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy.
Blockbuster report out of ProPublica. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, like you say, this is performative. They've got to cover it at some point because it becomes too obvious. And so, like Amy said, the good news is they cover it. The bad news is that they'll botch it and say we need more money and stuff like that. And then at the same time, the very next report will report what Martinez just said, that kids are graduating at record levels and things are great. So it's
73% are persistently in college.
Persistent, it's like
what does that mean? Well, I know that after my kids graduated, I got phone calls saying, "Are your kids still in school, or did they drop out of college?"
Well, did you say that they're persistent?
They're persistently in school and seeking a 4-year degree. I just found that bizarre.
What about I guess my follow up to Pedro, if I had been at the City Club, but would be, so let me understand that. What about the 80% of kids who are persistently not reading or doing math at grade level in CPS? Can I reconcile those numbers for me?
Yeah, and that's the sad part. And it's what they all do together, and it's pretty coordinated. It's Pritzker and Johnson and Martinez. They'll never tell you the truth. They will never talk about. And I'm looking at the school I love to look at is where Pedro Martinez actually went. He's an alumni of Juarez Community Academy in Pilsen. I can't remember what year he graduated, but that's the school he should be championing if that's his alma mater. And I'm looking at the results right here in front of me for last year. 8% of Hispanic kids read at grade level there, and just 4% do math, and yet 82% graduated. Now you're talking about a place where he could actually go in and have great leadership and change things. It sounds to me like he never went there and didn't care when you look at those results.
Yeah, 83% graduated. Everything's great.
Well, I've watched teachers fudge numbers before, close up, saying, well, we have to pass them because we were told to pass them. It was a PE teacher at Allman Brothers. And he's like, they never even showed up, but I was just told that I have to pass them in order for them to graduate. So that's what I'm doing, which is sad. But the sad thing also that Pedro Martinez said yesterday that just made me shake my head was he actually said, and he actually thought that when he came here to Chicago to be the superintendent, that he would stay here forever and end his career here. Now, that has never happened ever. A superintendent has never lasted more than 3 or 4 years ever.
His career should have ended here. Every superintendent's career should have ended in education right here. Yeah, based on what the actual performance. Yeah, right.
If he'd only spent the $300 million, if he allowed that bond issue, maybe he'd still have a job.
Right.
So he just didn't. He didn't.
He gave them everything they wanted. He was like a lapdog for the CTU. He looks like a fool. And then at the end, though, he wouldn't go with that $300 million. So where are they going to get that from? With this new temporary CPS CEO?
Yeah, I'm still flabbergasted by these numbers. I pulled them up the table that Dan mentioned. Douglas High School, 28 kids enrolled when it's got capacity for 912 kids, $93,000 a student. There's one head count, one staff member for every student. So it should be the ideal school where you can do a one-on-one teaching, and 0% of the kids read at grade level there. So you can't make this up, and it's not our data. This comes straight from the state data and CPS data. So it's and the list goes on, right? We have a list of 20 schools that look something like that. Some not as bad, but it's a sad statement. But it's hidden by everybody, even if it's being published now.
It's just fraudulent. And I've been in these schools, and it's like an Uplift where they have, I think, 28 kids. And they're trying to put a football program together. I mean, it's just
it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of kids play both ways.
Just combine, right, yeah, but combine high schools.
Douglas High School, they need the class sizes need to be smaller. I mean, physically. Not we took some smaller class sizes. We're not talking about head count. Now we're talking just physically because there's basically one student per classroom. I mean, it's got to feel cabinet. It's got to feel like you're at the Overlook Hotel.
Well, what's interesting is in that school choice bill that Trump is trying to do at the federal level, it's been put in the Senate version as well. So yeah, it seems like it has legs. So you're talking about $5 billion across the country for 100% tax credit scholarships. So that might do a little bit of shaking up if it can get through Congress. It could do some shaking up of what's happening here in Chicago, maybe.
Yeah, you bet families better be queuing up because there's going to be a lot of competition nationally for those dollars, even though it's significant. $5 billion spends pretty quick across the 50 states. But you're right, that's huge, especially since we can't seem to provide any stewardship of our own resources here. I love this associated story too. Oh, man. Safe passage workers fear cuts as Chicago Public Schools work to close deficit. Yeah, we need these safe passage. We need somebody to escort the 28 kids to Douglas. The safe passage workers don't have anybody to passage.
Well, one thing I haven't looked at is attendance. I should have looked at that. 28 enrollment, but you look at the overall 40%
chronic absentee
tourism. Yeah, very chronic absentee. Yeah, so maybe it's like you say, maybe very few kids to help. I don't see why they just can't keep their jobs anyway, right? Just keep the safe passage for anybody who's walking by.
Exactly. I mean, just glorified crossing guards. We have those. Do we still have those people? I haven't seen them when I've been downtown. The people that mimic traffic signals, the traffic safety management aides.
You know what? I live by Wrigley. I haven't seen them this year. I mean, maybe I should concentrate more. But the safe passage people are gone in our hood. They're not needed anymore. Or there's not enough kids to get to Lakeview High School. I don't know.
Maybe we need a guest worker program for safe passage city employees. On the economic front, while Jelly Belly was in D.C. Pitching his wares, back at home, there has been, volatile environment always, but a number of companies announcing layoffs here in Illinois. Yaskawa is pulling up stakes from Waukegan and moving to Franklin, Wisconsin. 14 companies across the state, from Libertyville to Naperville to Momence in Kankakee County, will be furloughing workers. In Libertyville, 133 employees at 2 Bristol-Myers Squibb sites will be out of work beginning July 1. Cardinal Logistics got rid of 43 employees in Naperville. Momence Packaging, this is a big one, which makes the Johnsonville sausage products, scheduled to lay off 274 workers beginning August 1st. They're moving operations to Wisconsin and Kansas. So, by the way, Illinois has been a laggard when it comes to job creation, the percentage of increase in household incomes and wealth accumulation. And it looks like it's going to continue to be 2,100 jobs total.
Yeah, we published a piece. I think NBC5 did it on all those layoffs or workers losing their jobs, and it was very popular on our site. Sadly popular, but the one that I took away from this was this Japanese company. What was it called? The Yaskawa.
Yaskawa. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's impressive because this is a place that's kind of dear to me. I spent some time in Waukegan on school reform stuff and school choice there, and you talk about a place that's got tough times and difficult situation, but huge potential because it's on the lakefront. It's got that Hispanic workforce, which is a very hardworking workforce. It's got cheap land, lots of property. It's near that Wisconsin border where all that stuff is happening right over the border, and in theory, if our leadership could take advantage of it, we'd make Waukegan a hub. But instead, this company that's in Waukegan is leaving. They're creating an 800,000 square foot campus in Franklin, Wisconsin. They're going to invest $180 million, 700 new high-paying jobs. It's robotics, industrial robots, motion control devices. You're talking about the great jobs, high pay, and it's leaving us, and it's just going right over the border where all that stuff is going on. This is just another indictment on the failure of Pritzker, since he took office. Not to mention, what happened before.
Well, maybe we can give another casino or something.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then raise the casino gambling taxes.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Pritzker, this was his exchange with Byron Donalds last week before the House Oversight Committee, talking about budgets, and I thought of you because I know. You're a budgeteer. You're a budgeteer just like J.B. Pritzker is. So, I mean, you have a lot to discuss on this.
Mr. Chairman, to piggyback off my colleague, Governor Pritzker, how much does the state of Illinois spend on illegal immigration every year?
Again, illegal immigration, that's a federal responsibility. They could tell how much is wasted as a result of their failures.
Governor, don't you keep track of how many people are on your Medicaid rolls, how many people who are illegal immigrants in the state of Illinois who are getting actually benefits in your state? Doesn't your government keep track of that?
They don't get Medicaid in Illinois or any state as far as I know.
Governor Pritzker, you do not keep track of any public service dollars in the state of Illinois that goes to illegal immigrants or goes to people in your state who are not legal residents of the United States and of the state of Illinois. You don't keep track of that.
We absolutely keep track of our budget, and we're very closely. And in fact, it's been balanced for 7 years in a row, unlike the Republican before me. Yeah.
It's interesting. Really? I noticed that in the state of Illinois, you guys don't really keep track of your money, because I asked your mayor in Chicago similar question about a month ago, and he didn't have an answer. It was quite interesting. I think this might be an Illinois problem.
It's definitely an Illinois problem, Ted.
Yeah, well, he knows the numbers. We have the numbers. We get them right off of his website. Pritzker makes it very clear how much he spent on health care. And he's right. It's not Medicaid. It's Medicaid-like. Pritzker, we spent close to $2 billion on health care for illegal immigrants, all paid 100% paid by state taxpayers. Pritzker knows that, but he wouldn't admit it, and he didn't want to admit it, of course.
But he balanced budget 7 years in a row, he said.
Yeah, that too. That's always the perennial lie in Illinois that we don't pay our pension debts, we don't pay a lot of our health care debts, and that we magically balance the budget all the time just because he says so, and that's that's the problem. He can just say it, and this is the whole problem with all these testimonies and stuff. They say whatever they want. We just heard what Martinez said. Nobody challenges them. People believe it, and the lie continues.
Well, they make these declarative statements, yes, because Pritzker signed another budget yesterday. But in that budget, $2.5 billion on illegals. Are you going to be looking into that?
Well, that's how much is going to be spent by the end of this year. But the real thing is this, so explain something to me. We have this unfunded pension liability problem, which everybody concedes. We have the worst credit rating in the nation at the state level, which is just something that is. So how do we have those dynamics with all these balanced budgets?
Well, and that's always, I think, one of the biggest opportunities to really hit at the system. And I've never figured it out, but it's a real lawsuit. How can governor after governor after governor and General Assembly after General Assembly claim they balance the budget, and yet you see pension debts go from some $15 billion back in 2000 to $144 billion today? You can't have it both ways. And something has to give. And you would think that some taxpayers somewhere would have standing on that, but we've never figured that out legally.
Yeah, and we haven't figured out how to connect the dots in the minds of about half the population of Illinois either. Something else that needs to get sussed out. Ted Dabrowski, President, Wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer. Enjoy uninterrupted programming from Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson around the clock, all day, every day, including daily replays of Chicago's Morning Answer on Dan and Amy 24/7. Listen now at danandamy247.com.
Does your garage floor look bad, cracked, or stained from Chicago's brutal winters? Contact my good friends at Level 10 Coatings. Level 10 brought my garage floor from dirty, gross, to showroom shiny new in just one day. Level 10 Coatings can do the same for you.